Hello and welcome into the Free Outside podcast. I heard a huge rumor. Breaking news here. It sounds like somebody in the trail world is trying to permit a 200-mile race in the Wasatch. So that's by Salt Lake City. And this person's pretty well known, so stay tuned. We'll see when this is released, but it is someone, if you're into trail running, you would know. If you're not into trail running, you might not know. But that's pretty interesting development. So 200s are exploding, and we now have the 300-mile Arizona Monster. But anyways, I am getting real into this Olympic stuff. You know, I've been thinking like it would be so funny if each nation got to pick their own unique sport. So it's in France right now, so maybe it's like crepe making is their sport. Or when it's in LA in 4 years, it's probably like a drinking game or something with guns. Yeah, sorry. But it would just be funny if they got to pick something. Or if France had jousting, that would be sick. If it's like the host nation gets to pick this one event where it's only held when it's in their country. Man, jousting would be so cool. Oh my gosh. It'd be like all these people who do reenactments and now they're actually jousting for real. All right. Anyways, let's get into the podcast. It's going to be a cool one. We're diving into the FKT scene once again. Jameson Collins just set the supported FKT on the Oregon Coast Trail. And I don't think we've done a supported FKT. We haven't really covered it. I've never done one. And Nick Fowler, who we had on, has done self-supported. And actually, Nick Fowler, about a week before Jameson went for this record, Nick Fowler threw down a self-supported time that was a day faster than the previous record and made it pretty stout time. And so Jameson, I actually coach him. We had to decide, could he do this? Was it worth it? Should he go after it? We settled on definitely yes. Can he make it? We don't know. FKTs are crazy because this was 450 miles and having to do it in 6 days or 6.5 days. But went for it, put it all out there, and we get into it. The Oregon Coast Trail is crazy. He even had a pack raft, and we talk about that. And the Trailo lattes, because all these beach towns, his wife Hannah could get him burritos and lattes. So without further ado, let's dive into Jameson Collins setting the FKT on the Oregon Coast Trail. And we talk a little bit about him being a business owner and starting the company Houda Trail as well. So check that out. Links in the, not the bio, links in the description if you're interested. All right, welcome Jameson Collins to the podcast, fresh off setting the Oregon Coast Trail FKT. So I want to start with, why did you wear 2 different watches on the trail?
Yeah, you caught me, didn't you?
Yep, I did.
Yeah, okay. So I was I guess to make this a short answer, on the way up there, I was I was thinking about how I never got a spot tracker or something. I was thinking about doing that at some point. I've always wanted one of those anyways, but I never got one. And then I remember, actually, when you were pacing me at Bigfoot last year, my Garmin watch bricked, in the middle of that crazy alien Klickitat section.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, wait a minute. If my watch bricks during the middle of the FKT, I got to go back and start over. And I kind of freaked out about it. So I was I looked over and I was like, Hannah, give me your watch. And we, the night before, we, erased everything from her watch. And I wore a second one just so I could have 2 tracks running, basically, because I didn't have any other way to record it, and I was worried about, I wanted some redundancy, so.
Yeah, I thought it was a balance yourself out or something like that. Get both wrists, have a watch on them.
Yeah,
superpower. Yeah. So how did yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I just said it ended up working out. I've never worn 2 watches. I know some people do that, and, you can have different stuff going, but I basically had one that I just ran a whole track on, and then the other one I started and stopped every day. And it actually, I wanted a fresh start every day so I could do math a little bit easier, just kind of, because after a couple of days, you're like, what mile did I start at this morning? And what mile am I at right now? And so it was just like that one I could always look down and be like, okay, I'm 40 miles into the day. I got, 25 miles to go or whatever. So that was helpful.
So before we dive into the nitty gritty, how did you decide to do the Oregon Coast Trail FKT? What made it interesting? Why the OCT? And since it just got broken by former guest Nick Fowler, like what went into this FKT?
Yeah, so let's see, we were in the middle of the Triple Crown last year, and we kind of had a little bit of time between Bigfoot and Moab, and I was actually doing some running, and I went down to stay with a friend that like has a cool beach house outside, like south of Gold Beach, and it turns out there's like basically from Gold Beach to the border in Brookings, the south end of the trail is like actually pretty cool trail along the coast. It's all like that rugged Sam Boardman corridor. With like cool beaches and views and stuff. And so I had my wife drop me off in Brookings and I ran back up to Gold Beach just as like we were doing like a 20-mile training run or whatever. And I was like, I kept seeing these like Oregon Coast Trail signs. I didn't even know it was a thing. And so on that run, I was like, Oregon Coast Trail, like this trail must be like the whole coast. And then I went and looked it up and then I was like, I wonder if there's a record on it. And what people had done it. And that section of trail was pretty cool, but I didn't know anything about the rest of it. But the record seemed like pretty soft to me. It was like 7 days, 17 hours or something. And I was like, I don't know. That seems like pretty doable. So I was just like, maybe that'll be like a good first like longer FKT for me to go after.
And then, so let's get into the lead up to it. So you're going to go after it. You have in your mind that it's pretty soft. And then what happens?
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, cool. I think we got to go. Like, I was going to try to do like around 60 miles a day or something, try to do like 7 days, and like have some wiggle room, like have almost like 15 hours of wiggle room. And I was like, this is going to be so much fun. We're just going to go around on the beach. And then actually you sent me like an Instagram post from Nick that was like, day one of OCT, 65 miles. And I was like, oh no. Oh no. And it was like right after you had kind of introduced me to Nick through your podcast, and I was just like, well, this guy's actually, the story's actually funny. I had a guy order a pair of pants through Houda Trail, and he actually lives in Brookings, and we were just talking about Brookings and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I'm doing the Oregon Coast Trail. I'm going to do a record attempt. And he's like, oh, cool. Some guy just stashed his car at my house. He's doing a record attempt right now. And I was like, interesting, huh? And then I was like, oh, it's probably just it's probably like a hiker that's just doing like a self-supported attempt, like no big deal, like I'm doing supported, probably doesn't matter. And then it was a hiker doing a self-supported attempt, but it was Nick Fowler, like, so it was a big deal. Yeah, and he shaved over a day off the record, and I honestly didn't really have any interest in even trying after that. But you and a few people kind of talked me into it. Some good friends were like, well, you should probably just try anyways. And
so before the record, did you think you didn't have a great chance at it? Where you just kind of like show up, give it my best shot and see? Or what was the mindset?
So at first, when I was first going for it, it was like over 7.5 days. I hadn't really done much planning or really digging in. I was just like, I'm going to go run down the coast, and if there's a ferry, I'll take it. And if the tide's high, I'll go around. And I was just going to kind of like wing it. And then after Nick, took over a day off of it, I was like, I kind of started to dig into it. I was like, I need to plan this way better. And Nick actually, like, me and Nick got in touch, and he actually gave me like a ton of help with all that stuff. Like, we talked about a lot of the crossings and a lot of the tide stuff, and like he really painted a good picture of what I needed to be paying attention to. And at that point, I was like, I thought I could do it if everything went well, but I still was just like, I never ran more than 250 miles, so adding like 3 more days onto it was like a pretty big unknown. But it was definitely like gonna go into this, try to get the record, but like finish the trail no matter what,
Totally.
It's more about running for 6 days and getting the experience than the record. So that was kind of, I wasn't very confident in it. We'll say that.
Okay. Yeah, it's a really unique trail, so let's just go ahead and dive into it. So you start out Monday at 7 a.m., and then it's I know at least the northern portion pretty well, but it's like a ton of sand. So are you just like locked into hiking mode, or are you running from the get-go, or how is the sand treating you from the very start?
Yeah, so most of the beaches up north, most of the beaches until you get to like Bandon, or we'll say like Umpqua, we'll say Reedsport. Pretty much everything in the north half of the state, they're really flat, wide beaches, and so as long as the tide's not super, super high, you're actually like down by the water running on hardpack, and it's like kind of the best running surface there is. I think it's like perfect.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like doesn't sap any energy from you, and you can like cruise on it. So like, I did the first 20 miles from the Columbia Jetty to Tillamook Head in like 4 hours. You know, I was cruising like 5 miles an hour, just running on the beach, like super chill. So,
And then you have your support van with a latte and a burrito waiting every 20
that's
miles.
right, yeah, the Camino del Latte.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hannah, we had like snack. We basically bought snacks for the trail, and then we were planning on pretty much eating like random fun food the whole way and drinking lattes and just taking advantage of the coastal amenities.
Yeah. So how would it go? So like on day one, you're running and you decide you want a burrito. Do you text ahead to have a burrito waiting and a latte, or do you pre-plan this? How is the communication going to make this support the perfect method?
Well, so me and Hannah's crewed me for 4 200s out of a van. So like she's got it down. Like we kind of got our system down, but usually it's like preordained aid stations, and she's just really good. A lot of times you're out there, so you know like Cocodona really. And I didn't run Cocodona. We were crewing Cocodona, and that was really the first place where you have like access to a lot of like stores and towns and stuff along the way. And we're like, this is pretty cool. So we're gonna treat it like that. But I I didn't want to spend too much time with her, like eat burritos and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so like I was like, let's try to just do like 20-mile sections. And so we can meet there, redo fluids, redo snack bag, and like get a bite. You can give me some real food. And I would I changed my socks way too much. So like I would actually do a little aid station, sit down, change my socks, do whatever I needed to do, eat some food, pack up and go about every 20 miles. And that was the first day. And then we kind of like started adjusting from there because for various reasons, they pretty much needed 20 miles was too long for me.
Totally. Yeah. And then, so the trail's unique because you hit a bunch of like inlets and you have to time the tides right. When does that start becoming a factor, and how did you try to time it out, and what happened with those out there?
Yeah. Well, you know me, I like to like write out these detailed plans and try to follow them, which is always never goes to plan. But for this one, it was like, I tried to lay it out to where I was I didn't want to have to stop or go around because of tides. So I tried to time it to where I could do any of the crossings, wade any of the small stream crossings, or I had a pack raft available in a backpack. So if the tide was high, I could pack raft it. And then the big bays, I was trying to either be there when a ferry was operating or just paddle it myself. And if I was going to paddle it myself for the bigger bays, it kind of had to be at the right tide. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like paddling across a big bay at like a huge, like out ebb tides pushing out I didn't want to get sucked out to sea in a 6-foot raft. So.
Not ideal.
No, so I had them all mapped out, and like I totally underestimated the first day and got behind. And
Yeah, it looks like you missed your window for getting across Nehalem.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't make it to. For some reason, I thought I was going to go the first 50 miles in 12 hours, and it was like just a really tough day. It was really hot, and there was just a lot more like overgrown, rooty single track like in the state parks. And it took forever, and I missed that one, and that made me go around on the highway and add like a bunch of miles, and then we never got back on track after that. So it was literally, we were just like, my plan went out the window, and we were just winging it, like, trying to get across stuff however we could. And
So 12 hours in, the plan that you wrote out for the next 6 days was already gone.
Done. Yeah, totally done. We for some reason I thought I could get back on at Tillamook the next day, and we got close, but it just I don't know why it didn't work out. It was almost like there was more miles in the beginning than on paper. Like, and
Okay.
so we got about 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours behind, and that just threw all the tides off.
And then, so you're still in a good headspace though, like to keep going? That seems pretty tricky 1 day into 6 days to be off. And I think you ran
Yeah.
the highway on day one instead of paddling.
Yeah, exactly. No, we ended up like I was out running around Nehalem Bay at like almost midnight. Like, well, this is not what we're supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be in Tillamook sleeping right now, but here we are. But it's like I knew that. I know, I've always had that approach with 200s. Is like if you're gonna write out a plan, you have to be ready for that plan to just totally disintegrate and not let it affect you. Like I think if I was the type of person that like had to stick to a plan, like I wouldn't write plans for these things. 'Cause
Totally. Yeah. My feeling on plans is writing them out is my way to get to know what I'm doing. And then when I'm doing it, barely look at the plan because
yeah,
you're going to throw it away immediately.
yeah,
But
totally, yeah, no, but that's exactly it, and that really like writing the plan out and all the mileages and stuff really helped me familiarize myself with what we were doing, and so I did know the route really well, and that helped a lot.
yeah. So this pack raft, so part of this FKT, how far are you paddling? Like what was your longest paddle out there?
Well, so I was supposed to paddle Nehalem Bay, Tillamook Bay, which Tillamook Bay was going to be like a 3 mile paddle, just
That's
because I didn't want to go.
it's a long way.
Yeah, especially in a pack like those things don't go fast on flat water. Like I can, I was like 25-minute miles when I was practicing with that thing. So um, I was gonna paddle Coos Bay, Winchester Bay, Umpqua River, like some big
Oh
river
yeah.
mouths. And I ended up paddling Sand Lake. It was the only thing I ended up paddling on the whole trip, and it's literally like that's the official OCT route. You just can't cross it unless the tide's super low, and the tide was super high, and I didn't. I just basically paddled 50 feet across a little stream, like a little bay, instead of walking 7 miles around. So that was the
Okay.
only time I carried it out to Coos Bay, but like I was definitely going to have to get rescued by the Coast Guard if I would have tried to use it. So I came back with my tail tucked and we put it away and I ran around the highway.
Do you think it's faster to paddle across these or to run around them, or is it about the same and it just saves your legs?
No, well, some of it is like save your legs. A few of them it adds a lot of miles to go around.
Okay. Yeah.
Tillamook Bay adds like, depending on where you cross, if you go around, it can add like 16 miles of road. And then Coos Bay is the same. Like I was gonna shave like I think 11 miles off that day, but I ended up actually adding like 16 because I had to backtrack it because it didn't work.
And so the official OCT just is however you can get around or across the bays is legal, basically.
Yeah,
Super unique.
yeah, it's super unique, and it's like there's not really. I mean, there's like a guidebook. There's a far out guide that you're following, so you're like, well, if I stay on the red line, then I'm doing the trail. But really, it's a little bit more like nuanced than that, and you can cross the bays by your own power or by there's like if you're just through hiking the trail, because this is what it's kind of based off, is just like how you through hike the trail. It's like you can take ferries. A lot of people skip the road section, just get bus ride. They just like hop on a bus and go around, or hitch rides or whatever. So, for FKT, it's this kind of weird thing where you obviously can't get in a car and go around the bay, but if you can hire a ferry, like a lot of the records have done that. And some people are stinky about it, and they're like, oh, I don't want to do ferries, and that's fine. But it's like, I was going for like, I was really leaning into the supported like effort, like let's see what the most direct, quickest route from border to border is, and try to get the time as low as possible for that style. Because I think Nick got it nearly low as possible for the self-supported, no ferries, you know,
Totally.
timing the tides, like he pretty much nailed that. And so I was kind of just taking a different approach. It was going to be a pretty different record, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I wish you were like going across Tillamook and put up a little pirate flag and just had like a 3 mile
Yeah.
little row across there.
I know that was the plan. I like wanted like an eye patch and everything, but
Yeah, you could put up a sail. It might help if the wind's blowing the right way.
totally, dude. I know. Yeah.
Where did you practice rowing? I'm fascinated by this pack rafting aspect of an FKT. It's totally crazy.
Yeah, I just went up to like the lake. It was like 100 degrees, and I like went and did a. I had it in a backpack, so I went to a place where there's like a 4 mile trail up to the lake, like just outside of town here in Eugene, and so I did I walked with it and then set it up on the side of the lake and paddled around and then broke it down and then hiked back just so I kind of had that like process down a little bit.
Yeah, man, we got to find you some more FKTs with paddling involved.
I know. I bet Alaska has a bunch of them. That's kind of like where those things are.
Totally. All right, let's get back into the FKT. When does it start like getting hard? When are you starting to hallucinate, starting to lack of sleep, having to push harder? When did things kind of start turning?
Yeah, so I had like a pretty wicked hallucination session, like I think on the third night, but it was like pretty brief, and I managed it well, and just I was right before bed, anyways, and so I just like had to get to I had to get like 2 miles through I was out on the beach, and the beach turned into a Christmas tree plantation that I was in the middle of, and I could not go where I was going, and I was like went through all these Christmas trees, and I just had to get through the Christmas trees, and then I got some sleep, and that was like the real only hallucination party I had for the whole thing. But really, it was like the first 2 days were really tough, and then on the third day it started to get better, and on the fourth day I really started to like feel good, and then the fifth day was the best day I felt running. But then we had the Coos Bay debacle where I wasn't able to cross, and so I had to backtrack and add a bunch of time. When I backtracked, it was into like a 40-mile-an-hour headwind, and like it was a really rough day. Body still felt great. Like I was still moving really good, but we couldn't make that crossing, and I just like sat down and cried. And I thought, because we basically went from maybe being able to do sub 6 to like maybe not even being able to get a record, you know. Like,
Oh, just by that crossing not working out, that's all it took.
That's all it took, yeah. And
Wow.
but I was just like, can't sit here and do math and think about it. I just need to like change my shoes and start running and figure it out, because, you know, if we still have a shot at it, we need to be moving that way. And it was kind of cool. It was like, you told me going into this, like, you're like, expect to have a bad day, you know, like you're probably going to have one bad day in one of these things. And that was like it happened, and I was ready for it, and I just like turned it around, and we did like 70 miles that day and like stayed in the game. So I think that was when things got real, like really real for me, but we like made the best of it, and that kept me like, you know, really engaged and like
Totally.
still pushing for the same result, which was cool.
Yeah, and then you get to like 24 miles to go and you have 60 some miles. Is this when it's like real and you just jump in that mindset, or where are you at when you're closing it out?
Yeah, no, the last, we left Bandon with 100 miles to go in like 36 hours, which I knew was going to be tight. And later that day, basically when we got to about 60 miles with 24 hours left, that's when I was like, I could really start to tune in on the math, and I was like, this is actually really close, and I don't have time to take care of myself anymore, and now I'm finally really tired, and everything's just starting, like, it all finally kind of just started to like fall apart for once, like, and I was just like, okay, well, like, this is what these things are supposed to be like. It's supposed to suck and be really hard, so we're there. I can't take care of my feet anymore. I just started to get blisters, and like everything started to hurt, and I was super tired, and I knew I was only going to get like an hour of sleep that night. I'd been getting really good sleep up to that point, but it was like, we knew it was like no sleep, big push. And I just kind of accepted it, and I had a really good friend and pacer there, and we just like knew what we needed to do. Yeah, and so it was kind of it was like that last, it was really at the end of day 6, and then that night going into the last day was when I was like, it got pretty intense.
Yeah. And so did you just try to just keep moving at that point, and he was helping stay on pace for the most part, and then
Yeah,
whatever's
really
going to
like,
happen?
yeah, we were like, okay, like no more, like we just got to be really, we shortened the amount of time that we'd see Hannah, and that last section from Gold Beach to the borders, like there's pull out. We were pretty much right along the highway on trails, and there's pullouts the whole time. So I just like gutted my pack. I had basically 2 flasks with me, and I would just see her like every 5 miles, and she would hand me 2 new flasks and like one thing to eat, you know? And so we were just like, I just had to make it to her, and Thomas was navigating for me, and we just like didn't really stop, you know? And we weren't moving real fast, but we were just like steadily heading in that direction.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's a really tough piece of trail. That's the section I'd ran before, and there's like a lot of vert in there, and you can get lost really easy because there's just like tons of recreational trails down to the beach that don't have anything to do with the Oregon Coast Trail. It's not marked very well, you know, but it was really like get to Brookings, and then from Brookings it's really straightforward. Like the last 12, 14 miles is all just like on pavement to the border. So
Yeah, was there a point when you knew you were going to get the record when you were a certain amount away? Or was your math brain gone?
No, when we left, so it was kind of interesting. We got just south of Gold Beach is where we got like a little nap that last night. We got there at like 11 p.m. and I slept for 2 hours. I didn't sleep at all because my hips were having issues, and I was like really uncomfortable. I had really bad night sweat, so I just kind of laid there and sweated on myself, and like, but I got rest. Like I got 200 miler rest, you know, where you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm getting something out of this. It's going to make me move better. But we left there, and I had Nick's ghost. Like I knew where he got a little bit of sleep on that last night as well. It was like 5 miles ahead of me. And I was like, we got to get there to where he camped when he leaves. And then me and him are basically racing. I'm racing his ghost to the finish line, you know. And we made it to where he camped at the time he left that morning. And I was like, I think I can do this faster than him. I just have to do this faster than him.
Totally.
But it was like, you know, 40 miles, and I don't remember how many hours, but it was something that when we went to sleep that night at Hunter Creek, we did the math, and it was like, we based the amount of sleep I got off of having to do less than 3 miles an hour for the rest of it. And
Totally.
I was pretty comfortable with that number, you know. I was like,
Yeah.
we can't really mess that up. I was like, unless something catastrophic happens, like we should be able to get that, you know, we should be able to get it for sure. It might be close, but like we'll get it.
Yeah. Okay. So then now through the final miles, are you just like ecstatic, or are you just trying to hold on, or where's your head at after being out there 6+ days?
It was pretty good. I wasn't like I was in pretty rough shape until we got to Brookings, and then they were like, all right, we have like 5 hours. And I was like, I'm going to run this section in less than 3 hours. You know, it's like 12 miles. I'm going to run in less than 3 hours. And they're like, what? No, you're not. And I was like, dude, like, come on. Like, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll prove it to you. You know, it kind of became one of those things. And so I was like, I'm going to run. Like, we got 12 miles. It doesn't matter what happens. I'm going to run this whole section. Kind of like we did that last half marathon at Bigfoot. Like, it sucks to run the end of that kind of.
Totally.
But, like, just get it done with.
And then
I saw my family in Brookie, like coming across the bridge, the Chetco River. Like my mom and dad and sister surprised me, and that got me super fired up. Like,
sweet.
So,
and then
I walked after that. You know?
Yeah, and then you finish strong, and then your finish photo, your eyes are kind of like pointing different directions and stuff.
Yeah, totally. No, I looked pretty rough. Like people were concerned about me. Like when I was coming through town, for sure. I couldn't like figure out what traffic was doing anymore. Like I would just kind of try to run out into the middle, like crosswalks and stuff. And he was doing a really good job at like letting me know and actually like stopping traffic and stuff for me. But like I felt like I really had it together, but I probably didn't, you know?
Yeah,
And then,
totally.
Yeah. I think my eyes were definitely pointing in wrong directions when I got
So,
there.
yeah. So what's the damage after 6.5, 6 1/3 days out there? How's the body doing?
Yeah, so my feet got pretty like I got more blisters than I've had in since like Moab the first year I did it. Like I've gotten pretty good at taking care of my feet, and like this definitely jacked my feet up the end of it more than anything recently. And then I got like my lips are toast. Like I got my skin took a beating out there and this just staring south into the sun for 6 days, even though I was like I was like trying to take care of it. But really, like, no, like my body itself feels great. Like I don't have any joint pain. I'm not sore. Like I'm ready. I could start walking, going for walks right now. Like I feel pretty darn good. I'm just really tired and really hungry. Like,
Yeah, that's awesome. So what? Let's do going into it and then what it actually was. What was like the schedule plan going into it? Like how much sleep, how much time on your feet? How did you plan out? Because the supported style's a little bit different.
yeah, it was like, well, we knew we were going to try to sleep every night, like kind of conserve more than you do in a two. Like I'm used to do 200s where you're kind of going around the clock and you sleep when you can, or, it's like a lot. We were going to like get more sleep that would carry us through each night.
Hmm.
But we still needed to get the miles in, and I just didn't really have experience like with that. Like I haven't went through hiking and went out and like pulled 40s or 50s before. It's like I don't really know. I just kind of go do as much as I can in a 200. So this was like I figured I could do 60 to 70 miles a day was the window I wanted to be in, and hopefully do that like in a 19-hour period, and then have the rest for like downtime and sleep. So I was hoping to get 4 hours of sleep a night, and I did. And that sleep, it was so amazing to have that much sleep every night. Like I would wake up the next day feeling rested and like feel good on my feet and be ready to like wake up and start running.
Totally.
Like I kind of want to just do a 200 and sleep 4 hours every night, and then like just have a really good fun time. Be like, this is easy.
Yeah, it'd still be like, what, 2 3 days, probably
Yeah,
around 3 days, which is
totally,
crazy.
absolutely, yeah,
That's still a good time, well under the cutoff.
yeah, totally.
Yeah. So what were the final stats on the Oregon Coast Trail? Do you know?
For me, I think we did 6 days, 8 hours, and 3 minutes. My best mileage estimate was like 428 and a half. And then I didn't even look at the vert. It's not a lot of vert, but I was doing like, between like some days there was like 6,000 feet of vert in 100K, and some days there was like 2,000 feet of vert, because there's still a lot of beaches. So
Yeah. I think your Strava shows like 450 miles and 30,000 feet of vert. So
yeah, right.
something.
That was the long track, and I actually had to stop doing lap pace off that watch because the miles were just running super short, and it showed
Okay.
like 400. It was like I knew we weren't at that many like that. It said 200 miles and we weren't even close, and I was just like, and the mile it was like way too easy to do a 13-minute mile. I was just like, well, this is sweet, and then I was like, those aren't miles, you know.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
the watch you got to run intervals with. It'll really pump up your mindset.
totally, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have been actually. Like that's the watch I normally use. So that's why
Yeah,
you're like,
that
oh, you're doing great out there.
man, that is sweet. So what does it have you thinking and wanting to do for the future now that you've unlocked this multi-day style?
Dude, it's so crazy. Like, I never thought that running. I mean, this. Like, my whole goal with the Triple Crown last year was like learn how to run into day 3 better. Like how to
Hmm.
just keep consistently moving good. Because a lot of people run 200 milers. They like run the first day and then they kind of have an okay day and then they just walk the last 100 miles. Like, and I
Yeah.
wanted to really get better at that, and to be able to go out and run just as well on the 4th day as I did on the first, and running well on the 5th day, like it was really amazing to me. And it also just like way more confidence going back into 200s, and just it's like I can do that. I know I can go run for like a lot of days. I can go run for a week. So that just like kind of puts a lot of other stuff on the table. And
Yeah.
I haven't really dug too deep into what else is out there. But it's like there's I feel like I struggle with imposter syndrome, like I don't see myself as like a runner and like I never was and all that. But it's like I'm starting to be like, okay, well, like how many miles a day would the Arizona Trail take? Like looking at some of the bigger, more competitive routes. And that's just a neat place to be. It's like I don't know if I can go out and do those and compete, like, but I could definitely go try at this point. Like it's like I feel like I should try, so that's a
Yeah.
neat place.
That was a cool conversation we'd had because we were both going to go try FKTs we didn't know if we could do. So I think that
Yeah.
that's the whole lesson, and the thing is, if it's too much of a slam dunk or a shoe-in, it doesn't give you that feeling of like, I don't really know. So it's pretty fun to just show up and try it out. And I'm sure at the end of day one at Nehalem Bay, it's just like, uh-oh, but I'm going to pivot and figure out a way.
Yeah, it was big uh-oh.
Yeah. So now that we've spent a good 33 minutes on one trail, how did you get into the whole trail ultra 200 space?
I accidentally signed up for a lottery, pretty much.
Was it like a bet, or how do you accidentally sign up?
I don't even know. I started trail running when I was living up in Alaska. There's a thing called the Equinox Marathon up there, and it's like this. There's signs all over town that like mark the miles for it. And then I read it. I like looked it up, and it was like world's hardest marathon, and I was like, well, I'm doing that for sure. Like, this is a challenge.
Were you a runner? Did you run much?
I used to run for work. Like they used to make me run when I was a firefighter, but I hated it. And I needed something to get back in shape. And so I gave it a shot, and it just like, it went different this time, like I actually had fun with it. When I got off the roads and like started running on the trails in the woods, I kind of started having these cool experiences, and I was like, this is pretty fun. And then it just snowballed really quickly.
Yeah. And what did you accidentally, was it the Equinox Marathon you accidentally signed up for, or what was the lottery?
No, I did the Equinox, and then I hadn't even done the Equinox yet, but I knew I was going to be able to, because I was like, running. I was doing like 20-mile training runs at that point, and I was like, okay, like I can do a marathon. And I was all, I had like heard about ultras. I read Born to Run like a long time ago, and that seemed
Classic.
That stuff. Yeah, totally. It was like super intriguing and cool to me, but I was like, I could never do that. And then, I was like, well, maybe I could run an ultra, and I signed up for a 50K, and that didn't work out. That race got canceled, so I just did one by myself. And then, so I did 150K, and then I was like, there's this lottery for Moab, and they were like, put your name in the hat. And I was like, that looks cool. And I was like, I didn't think I'd get drawn. And even if I did get drawn, I didn't have to do it. But so I put my name in the lottery, and then they picked it. And I told my wife, I was like, I got drawn for this like 200 miler. And she's like, well, you can't do that. And I was like, yeah.
So all these people like were so sad they didn't get drawn, and you were like just kind of whatever, and then turned into, I have to do this.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
And yeah, man. And so I know that didn't go perfectly and was pretty rough, but you stuck with 200s after that?
Yeah. I didn't know. Well, so that whole year, so I ran that 50K in like January, and then I ran Moab that October. And that whole summer, I ended up like meeting some people. Well, like TR, like some of my best friends now that had ran some 100-milers, and like they were like, they kind of like took me under their wing and taught me how to like actually run.
Yeah.
Like long days and take care of myself and eat a lot of food and like stop and walk up hills and like all the things that you're supposed to be doing. And I didn't know how to do. I was just like running around with like nothing, running up all the hills, breaking myself off. But yeah. They kind of like, that summer we had a really good time, and I kind of fell in love with it. So I was actually pretty stoked going into it. Like, I didn't think I was going to be able to do it, but I was like, if I could run 100 miles of this 200-mile race, that'd be pretty cool. And then I ended up finishing somehow.
And then the next year you did the Triple Crown of 200s?
Yeah. Yeah, I signed up for the Triple Crown on the way home from Moab, like after being totally destroyed, and like, it was a really rough go, but I just like I was like, this is so amazing. Like this community, these races, like I want to do this again and not have it be such a bad experience. Like I want to get better at it and like go have fun out there instead of just being in pain the whole time. And I saw a bunch of people there doing that, and so I was like, I knew it was possible. I was like, if I
Yeah.
can just figure this out, I can go have fun with these.
Yeah. And what I'm leading to is like you start, dip your toe in, accidentally get into Moab, then you do the Triple Crown, and then you start a company that's outdoor centric too. Was it just like found your people and continued to want to spend as much
Yeah,
time? Yeah.
100%. Yeah, no, it's just like I found, like especially with like the destination trip, like the 200s, like just the I could tell that people knew each other really well there, like all the medics and people at aid station. I could just tell there was like huge community of people that were really close and they were like treating each other like family. And I just didn't know any of them yet, but I was like, I want to know all these people and like this place feels super cool and I want to be a part of it. And that was a lot of why I wanted to go back for the Triple Crown. And then, yeah, then it's just like the outdoor clothing thing, like I just wanted to. It was a super cool community that I found, and I wanted to like serve and be a part of the community. I wanted to do something that like, had me immersed in communicating and working with the community rather than like going and doing some other job and spending my free time, going to races or whatever. And I talked to you about that at Bigfoot last year. It's just you were like, well, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I don't know. It doesn't even really matter. Like, I just wanted to be something that like connects me with these people all the time, every day, and like." That's what it's turned into. So it's been really
Well, I think
perfect.
the conversation was more, what do you want to do? Then you said that, and you also said, but Alpha Direct, this fabric is really sick. I need to
Yeah,
be making stuff with it. So tell
yeah,
me about Houda Trail and what kind of stuff you make, and especially
yeah.
the socks, because I'm fascinated that there's socks.
That's right. You love the socks. Yeah, yeah. So I do. I make mostly like fleeces and leggings out of Polartec Alpha Direct, which is like a really breathable, light, ultralight insulation fabric. And it's if you never heard about it, it's like it was designed for the military and then iterated on to be used as like kind of a standalone piece that is super breathable, pretty warm, like warmth to weight is really high. Um, and alone it can cover you insulation wise in a lot of conditions, and then like since it's so breathable you can push it to some pretty high temperatures so you can sweat through it comfortably, and then at a certain point, like if it's windy, it doesn't protect from that, but you can pair it with like a lightweight wind shell, and then it's like nearly as warm as a puffy coat. So it's like it's this really versatile, lightweight, quick drying piece that is really good for mountain running, remote. It's really good for ultra and trail running, all that. And it's just like I pretty much use one all year. I either like wear it all winter running, or I have it in my pack as like an emergency layer all summer. And I
Yeah.
do. There's not really companies like big, large, mainstream companies that mass produce it. So it's just like a bunch of us little cottage makers that make pieces for people. And I do like pretty much all customs. I just do like built to order. I have fun with the colors. People can pick all their own colors and we do their grab your measurements and just build it for you and like make sure it fits. And there's different weights to choose from and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. How did you discover Alpha Direct, and how did you decide to go all in with it as a company?
Well, so it was actually Moab the first year. I was like, that's a really extreme race. Like it's like 90 degrees during the day and it's like 7 degrees at night, like up in the mountains. And like I was struggling with that. Like, and the only thing I had was like this big REI fleece that was like, I could keep it on up in the mountains where like if I wasn't moving very fast, I didn't get cold. And if I started moving good again, I didn't have to like immediately take it off. And I was like, well, that's pretty sweet. Like this like polyester fleece layer was definitely the thing that worked for me in those conditions. But like it was so big that I couldn't even zip it in my 12 liter. Like I had to strap it to the outside of my pack. So I was just like, when I got home from that race, I started researching like what is like the lightest, like best, like ultralight fleece, because I wanted something I could stuff in my running vest. And
Hmm.
the thru hiking community has been using this stuff for quite a while. And so I kind of I got into like the Reddit, like, the Reddit ultralight forums and started learning about it. And There was a few companies that were making it at the time. Like Senchi Designs was one of the bigger ones, the more well-known ones. But like Farpoint Outdoor, is here in Oregon, who has been doing really good work for a long time. There was a few companies that were making them, but it was like there was a shortage of Alpha Direct at the time, and everybody was like sold out, so I couldn't get one. So I found that you could like buy the fabric online, and so I like bought some fabric and a sewing machine. I had no idea what I was doing, and it was a total disaster, but like took some time and like figured out how to sew a little bit and like made myself one, and it wasn't pretty, but like I put it on and went running in it, and I was like, oh my god, this is sick. Like this thing is great. It was like winter time in the Willamette Valley, Oregon, where it's raining and cold all the time. I was like, this is the best thing you could ever run it around here.
Was it really cool wearing something that you'd made? I mean, that must be a pretty sweet feeling.
Dude, it was rad. I was so proud of myself. I was just like, I would like wear it around like I just made it. And it looked like crap. Like, it was pretty rough, but like, no, it was super cool because it worked. The thing is that like I made it. It looked like crap, but it worked better than anything I'd ever worn before, And so I was just like, well, like there's something to this, and I gotta like play with it and get better at it. And then as soon as I got to where they were like looked okay and were wearable, I was just like, I gotta share this with people. Like I started making them for my friends, and they were like, they all agreed, and so I just kind of started like a little Instagram side hustle, and then that just like everything I do escalated really quickly.
Yeah, they're 50K into 600 or 420 mile FKT, and
Right.
Learning to sew turns into that's your income now. It's pretty wild. So what's your next race? Are you going to do Arizona Monster or Cocodona? I think you're either on the wait list or in both of them.
Yeah, I think I'm still on the wait list for Coco, and I got into Arizona. I don't know, man. I just like fell hard in love with FKTs. Like, I don't even know right now. It's so hard to say. Like, I mean, I think we're gonna meet. You and me have talked. Like, we're gonna go try to do some more FKTs this summer. I want to do like a long build into one of those spring races. So that's probably still the plan. I just, like it'll probably be Arizona Monster. I'll try to do like the longest training block we've ever done into the 300 and see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm excited for that, especially after this. So I got one more question, and I always like to think that these FKTs or upping the mileage unlock something where you feel like, you can do something that you didn't think you could do before. What do you think you unlocked with this thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think just mostly for me, what I unlocked is like confidence in my ability to do it. Like, this was such a huge confidence booster. Like I said, like if I sleep, it's like I'm pretty good at eating out there all day now and like taking care of myself. Like that stuff we've all moving good at night. Like that's all stuff we fine tune on 200s. But like, just knowing that if I sleep, I can like get up day after day and run, and my body holds up and feels just the experience of this. I'm getting stronger. I finally ran enough to like be like, okay, my body's figured out what we're doing, and it's like we're just gonna get up and run 60 miles a day, and then we're gonna go to sleep and we'll get up and run 60 miles tomorrow. It's like falling in like that, becoming a natural rhythm was, I think, something that people really experience through hiking that I've never experienced before, and having that experience was really cool. Like, I don't care if it's 12 days. I think I can run for 12 days. I think I could run for 15 or 30 days, like, I think.
Totally. You don't know your top limit now.
Yeah, totally. It just made sense. I was like, oh, this is how people go out and run transcons, like you actually do figure it out, and your body comes around to it after a while. And that's pretty neat to kind of experience the beginning of that.
Totally. I lied. One more question. Does Houda Trail sell hats now? I'm noticing the Houda Trail.
Yeah, I got a few of these, and these are actually just like nylon hats. I buy in bulk, and then I sew labels on them. This is the only thing I don't like. I don't sew this hat, It's like, but yeah, I got some hats.
Sweet. Yeah, gotta pump those out into the world now in the running hat game, bridging the gap between FKTs, through hiking, and trail running. So, yeah. Well, thanks for joining. This was awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. It was great to be on, for sure. And thanks for all your help, man. It's been pretty unreal working with you for the last, I guess it's been a year and a half now, and think we've got a lot done, so thank you.
Yeah, we've finished everything we've started, except for last person standings, which those hardly count.
Yeah, we got what we needed from that. We know.
Yeah, we didn't hit on those because not as exciting. All right, thank you for listening. Another cool episode. Wanted to turn this one around. I know I'm gonna keep doing 2 episodes a week, and one will be solo, but it seems like we're just kind of flip-flopping when each one hits, because I think relevance is a little bit cooler than knowing that like every Monday I do a solo episode. I like that style. I like getting the room to teach myself to talk a little bit better. I like to learn to talk so good. So I want to keep doing the solo episodes, bring up things, but also have on guests. And since Jameson just set this FKT last Sunday, I thought I would get it out on Friday because it's relevant. And yeah, we'll just keep doing 2 a week, see how they fall. Thank you guys all for listening. If you have a minute, give us a 5-star review on Apple and write a review. The more emojis you use, the better. Just try to make like a full sentence with only emojis. Is that even allowed in podcast reviews? I don't know, but you guys should try it. All right, we love 5-star reviews. If you click that follow button, I'm trying to do all the things that other podcasters do. If you go onto YouTube and smash that subscribe button, then our podcast will benefit and we will go to the moon and have the biggest cult out there. Or if you click follow on Spotify and Apple, we will be the best. All right, guys, I need to let everyone go and get back to normal work. Thanks again. Stay elite, my friends.